મોટા અવાજ ના કરતા હું ચાલુ કરું છું. હેલો તેજસભાઈ.
Yes, sir.
When are we starting એ કહેજો મને.
Yeah, sure, sir. બે ત્રણ મિનિટ પછી સર સ્ટાર્ટ કરતી અટેન્ડીસ આવવાનું ચાલુ થઈ ગયું છે.
ઓકે, નો પ્રોબ્લેમ, વોટ એવર ઇઝ.
Yes, sir. Sir, you can start now, sir.
Okay. Welcome everybody. First of all, I would like to thank LifeCell for organizing such a nice meet where we can discuss some of the interesting things and new things which have come up. We are starting with some slides. Sorry, yeah. So, the topic which we decided on today is, can we produce super babies? So what is super babies? Super babies are the babies who have exploited their human life to a full potential. So how do we help them have their full potential? That is the issue which we will discuss today. Why this topic? It is unexplored topic, especially for expecting couples, those who are in phases of pregnancy, and even for those who are nurturing newborns. It is also needed to help the country to reach its full potential, because if the citizens are good, the country's full potential is explored. So the topic is such of vast importance and it's a huge topic. So we'll take it in two parts actually. So today will be the first part, and within 15-20 days we will announce the other date, which will be in second part. So, an interesting picture. Can we create super babies? Actually, there was a lot of science available with us in our ancient time, but we, over a period of time, have lost our ancient knowledge of Garbha Sanskar. If you see our old Vedas, they have described that Garbha Sanskar is very important for a pregnant lady. But over a period of time, in the modern stressful lifestyle, we have forgotten to take care of a pregnant woman. Our character called Abhimanyu, we all remember that. He was an unsung hero of Mahabharata. And the most interesting part was that he learned the whole knowledge of breaking the Chakravyuh in mother's womb. So sometimes it would look like a friction, but as the science is progressing, science is understanding that it's not a something totally called myth, but there is some definite potential to it. So we will explore that potential. In the womb, uh, can the baby get important nutrition which is necessary for the baby? Can the baby listen to music? Can the baby be happy? Can the baby learn inside the womb? Can the baby be harmed by radiation? Or can the baby be harmed by stress? There are so many questions in a pregnant woman and as such the couple's mind. So we will one by one go through all of this. And in the meantime, we will discuss about nutrition, we'll discuss about music and be happy and learning baby also. The harm by radiation in case of pregnancy is definitely there. Mobile is a microwave radiation. And whatever the companies say and whatever the research data is telling, there have been many other research data which tell that there is a harmful effect. So we need to avoid radiation as far as possible. And stress is definitely going to harm the baby. The answer to all this will be yes. So first we discuss about the sense of listening. The ears are very early to develop in baby's body, and by 18 weeks the first sound is heard by the baby. By 24 weeks of pregnancy, when the baby is in the womb, baby can hear very clearly. And at the time of birth, the baby's hearing sensation is at its complete level. Now, the voice which the baby hears inside the womb is because the baby is in fluid, amniotic fluid. So there will be gurgling sound. There will be voices like sound which is coming from mother also. There will be peristaltic movements of the mother's intestine also. So all this the baby is actually engulfing. So that is why lots of research has been done, and the CDC of USA has said that pregnant women should avoid loud noise which is greater than 115 dB to prevent damage to the baby. Consistent large noise is definitely very harmful. So we should avoid concerts with very large sound, or the areas where there is so much of sound that it can damage the baby. Regarding the sense of taste and smell, the research has definitely proved that babies can taste and smell food in the womb. By week 11, the taste buds in the tongue start to develop. Now, the tongue has got different areas where there are different types of taste buds. So there are some taste buds which are concentrated at some area which is for sweet taste, for bitter taste, for sour taste. And all this actually starts developing by as early as week 11. So even before the first trimester is over, the taste buds have started to develop. And by week 28, the taste buds are fully mature. So the baby can actually really understand the taste and identify it. Now, another important thing is that there are flavor molecules which also pass to the fetus. So amniotic fluid is there. Baby is covered with amniotic fluid, and baby goes on engulfing that. It swallows that fluid. Now, these small microscopic flavor molecules actually from maternal blood goes to the placenta, and from placenta to amniotic fluid. So baby starts tasting and smelling food in the womb itself, and whatever the mother eats and smells, the baby gets that effect. So the big evidence and big research says that definitely whatever the mother eats or mother likes to eat in pregnancy, the baby will also develop affinity to it, and on a long term in the baby's life also, he will or she will like the same type of food. Regarding the sense of vision, definitely the baby will open eyes inside the womb and can see. By 16 weeks, it starts seeing light. By 20 weeks, peepers are fully formed, and by 26 weeks, eyes first open. The vision is blurry, but it can see. It will respond with the flutter activity to the bright light. So suppose you concentrate bright light on mother's abdomen, definitely baby will flutter. There have been some tests for sound as well as vision for baby's well-being. We have a test where there is a sound producing vibrator, which if we put around the baby's mother's abdomen and see the baby in ultrasound, we can see the response of the baby. We can see that the baby immediately responds to a larger sound. In the same way, it can also see. Now, at the time of birth, the baby cannot see beyond 3 foot. The vision is up to 3 feet. And later on, actually, after by 3rd month beyond, the baby starts seeing more distant things. And that is why we have seen that the newborn baby sometimes will not respond if you are looking and doing something in front of the baby. But after 3 months, baby starts responding with small smile and other responses. Because now the baby can see at distance. But up to 3 foot, the baby can see at the time of birth. So out of the sound and vision, the sound is completely like an adult at the time of birth, but vision is not completely like adult at the time of birth. There is severe effect of stress and trauma to the fetus. So those parents who have post-traumatic stress disorder, that means their mother or parents have passed through severe trauma, it is found that the child is also at the higher risk of post-traumatic stress disorder, despite being exposed to lesser trauma. So that is a permanent effect. So that baby is affected for lifetime and will have post-traumatic stress disorder. There are many examples where severe trauma can affect the baby. If the mother loses a very important family member during pregnancy and there is a severe shock to the mother, the chance of prematurity increases by, or premature delivery will increase by 23%, which is a significant number. Traumatic events for mothers can deeply affect the developing babies. And that is why we sometimes get patients where they have some demise in family or some bad traumatic event in family. We always advise the other family members to keep her away from that and try to console her as much as possible, because it will deeply affect the baby also. Can the baby learn in the womb? New research definitely says that in last 10 weeks of pregnancy, babies start absorbing language, can actually identify native and foreign language hours after being born. So everything the baby is imbibing. Now, what is the growth of brain? We will discuss that also, that it is surprising that the baby, when it is inside the womb, can the baby get so much of information and actually process it? So before planning pregnancy, there are certain things we need to keep in mind. Many couples come to us and tell us that what is to be done if we are planning for pregnancy. Now that is actually a good advice, that you should consult a gynecologist before planning pregnancy so that he can help out certain things. So what are the important things we have to discuss? The growth of pregnancy is divided into 3 trimesters. The first 3 months, middle 3 months, and last 3 months. Now, first 3 months is actually organ formation. That is called organogenesis. So surprisingly, a baby which started with a single cell at 3 months will have all organs practically developed. And after 3 months, practically no new organ will develop. Almost all organs have developed, and it's a miniature of a full adult man. Second trimester, that is beyond 12-13 weeks. If you see a baby of 12 weeks, you will see a small baby which is just like your finger, but will have all the organs. Second trimester, there is size expansion and calcification of bones. And third trimester, that is the last 3 months, is functional maturity. That means babies, a lot of organs have developed already in 3 months, but they are not functioning. For example, lungs are already there, but they are not functionally mature. So in last 3 months, lungs, intestine, different organs start their functional maturity. This is the growth, and accordingly to the growth, we have to decide what nutrition to be given to the mother. So first we discuss about the preconceptional care. So before planning pregnancy, what should be done? The most important thing is supplementation. The best thing you can do to your child is to start supplementing these 4 vitamins particularly. One is folic acid, B6, B12, and vitamin D before you plan pregnancy. So make sure that your vitamin D and B12 levels are good. And it has been proved that if you start with folic acid, B6, B12, and while you are taking these 3 vitamins, and if pregnancy occurs, the chance of abnormality in the child reduces drastically. Particularly neural tube defect will reduce by 70%. So very significant. So the best thing you can do to your child is start with folic acid, B6, B12. And a lot of people ask questions to us that which folic acid, which kind of tablet to be taken. Now in foreign countries, tablets called prenatals are available, prenatal tablet. I recommend that don't take those tablets which are costlier also, because they come from US. Actually, India is a major source of drugs, and folic acid, nowadays it is proved that about 15% of patients have deficiency in MTFR gene, because of which they cannot convert folic acid to its active form, that is L-methylfolate. And that is why now new supplements which are available are newer form of folic acid, that is L-methylfolate. In the same way, in case of B12, the best form of B12 is mecobalamin, while all the prenatals which come from US, they will have cyanocobalamin, which is an older form of molecule. So take combinations which are available in India, and they are very good quality. Rule out all the diseases which are present. For example, some couple, out of the 2 partners, one may have thalassemia, for example, or sickle cell anemia. We need to identify these diseases so that further action can be taken while pregnancy is planned. Correct abnormal sugar and thyroid level. This is very important. A diabetic mother, if is planning for going into pregnancy, if the sugar level is abnormal when pregnancy occurs, and particularly in the first 3 months, it is very bad for the fetus. It can increase the chance of abnormality, and it can create later on problems. In the same way, thyroid is very, very important. And I think we have discussed once about thyroid. And again, I would stress that the thyroid levels have to be proper when you are planning for pregnancy. If a mother enters pregnancy and remains hypothyroid in pregnancy, the IQ level of the baby will be definitely affected. So to maintain that, thyroid level should be checked. Avoid smoking and alcohol when planning for pregnancy. All these have detrimental effect, and it has been scientifically proved. So we take care of preconceptional time. So this whole time from planning of pregnancy, duration of pregnancy, and post-delivery, first 2 years of life, this is called 1,000 days actually. The concept of 1,000 days came into world because this is a brief but very critical window where you can make a great difference to a human life throughout the life. What you eat and do in first 1,000 days make a difference for the rest of the life. So if you want the baby to be definitely super baby or explore its full potential, concentrate on these 1,000 days. So what is 1,000 days? It was actually a result of a groundbreaking research, and the concept actually established itself in 2010. Up to the birth of the birth to the child's second birthday is the time duration of 1,000 days. This has been found to be a window of opportunity, and it is basically the forerunner of the child's long-term health, stability, and prosperity. And we are still lagging behind. The concept of 1,000 days has still not percolated in India. But if you search and if you go to foreign countries, you will find that this has taken great momentum. Now, why this 1,000 days was discovered? Which study actually generated this concept? Basically, the study which generated this concept was the study of Dutch famine in 1944-45. Actually, in World War II, there was a situation, a condition in the year 1944 and 45, where Netherlands and some of the countries had sudden famine. So this is a unique period or a window when, in a modern, well-developed society which was having a proper nutrition, went into sudden famine, and there was no food available for the population. On an average, about 4.5 million people were affected, and 22,000 deaths reported. Dutch famine birth cohort trial was carried out, which was later on. Later on, after some years, this trial, this whole famine and its duration was studied, and surprisingly, they found long-term effect of this famine. This time was very short, actually. One of the winters of 1944-45. It is also called hunger winter over there, which means hunger winter. So a winter in which the population remained hungry or had very low calories. The affected celebrities, one of them was Audrey Hepburn, one of the stars of Hollywood. She spent her childhood during the Dutch famine, and later on, though she was very successful, she suffered from anemia, edema, and respiratory illnesses. So this study was systematically done by a British epidemiologist called David Barker, and that is why this hypothesis has been termed as Barker hypothesis. This is very interesting hypothesis. What the study indicated was that if the pregnant lady is exposed to lack of nutrition in its pregnancy duration, later on the babies developed growth retardation, low birth weight, and prematurity. That was expected because when pregnancy duration was not very good as far as nutrition is concerned, low birth weight is expected. But later on, when these kids become elders, they started developing hypertension, diabetes, osteoporosis at older age. So this was very interesting that whatever happened in pregnant duration, when the child was pregnant, when the lady was pregnant, those kids later on developed so many complications in their life. Thus, a concept of fetal origin of adult disease developed. Then further research was done on this, and intricate research was also done. And then it was found that the exposure in pregnancy also varies. So if by chance the lady has got less calories or less food during early pregnancy, but later on she gets good nutrition, then what will happen? In early pregnancy, first 3 months, the nutrition is not good, but then what will happen that the baby will take over the remaining pregnancy duration and the birth weight will become normal. So baby will be with a normal birth weight at the time of birth, but the baby will develop later on obesity, altered lipid profile. There will be higher cardiovascular risk to the child when the child becomes adult, and increased rate of CA breast was also noted. So malignancy rate was also increased. It was also found that females are more affected than male if in pregnancy the fetus is exposed. Now that was for early pregnancy where the normal birth weight occurred. Now what happened to mid gestation? That means that 12 to 28 weeks, suppose the pregnancy's duration is there. The interesting part was at the time of Dutch famine, some ladies were in early pregnancy, some were in mid pregnancy, some were in late pregnancy. So they could segregate those groups and they could find out that what happened to those kids later on. And it was found that those mothers who had poor nutrition during the mid gestation, they had babies with reduced birth weight. So growth retardation occurred definitely. But main effect occurred on the renal function. So the kidney was affected. So if second trimester nutrition is not good in pregnancy, then renal function is affected. And later gestation, that means in last 3 months, if the nutrition was not good. So if the pregnant lady got good nutrition in first and second trimester, but not in last trimester, then there would be reduced birth weight. There would be glucose intolerance and increased rate of diabetes and hypertension. So the time of exposure of pregnancy is also very, very important. Now, something or additional thing happened while this Dutch famine occurred. As I told you that in Netherlands, what happened that the pregnant ladies were exposed to a famine in 1944 and 45 in winter. But later on, after 1945, the World War scenario was complete over there. And because of that, they had plentiful of food after birth. So the population got good calories. So those population who are not getting even 1,000 calories while the hunger winter was there in Netherlands, they were again getting 2,500, 3,000 calories after. So the babies started getting adequate calories after birth. Now, those babies actually exhibited increased incidence of obesity, cardiovascular disorders, diabetes, everything. So this was interesting. Now, a different scenario occurred in USSR. In Russia, what happened? There were also the pregnant women were exposed to famine. So babies were exposed when they were in utero and deprived. But later on, after birth also, the famine continued. And so were also deprived after birth also. Here, interestingly, because the body adjusted in such a way with lower nutrition, that there was no incidence of obesity, cardiovascular disorders, or diabetes as adult. So this also brought the concept which is called mismatch concept. So it is said that there is an epigenetic change which occurs due to the environment. So if the environment in pregnancy where the baby is in womb is of deprivation, that is the low calories, low nutrition, and if after birth the baby starts getting adequate nutrition, the genes are not accustomed to that much of nutrition and they start developing obesity, hypertension, diabetes, etc., all the different diseases. Now, where there is a match, that means the nutrition was less during pregnancy and the same nutrition lack or the deprivation remained after delivery, then the survival is optimized. The genes are programmed in such a way that they are tuned to lower calories and they will continue to survive in lesser calories. So there should be a match. That is the concept. When there is a match between the predicted and the actual environment, the survival is maximized. Conversely, when the two environments are mismatched, a predisposition to disease will occur. So this opened the whole new era of concept of intrauterine nutrition and fetal origin of adult diseases. So what is the effect on even mental health? We discussed about the physical health until now. There is definite effect even on mental health. With nutrition deprivation, there is irreversible damage to brain. And so undernutrition in early age will lead to increased risk of schizophrenia, antisocial personality disorder, and addiction in later life. So all this is going to increase burden on the society. This has a large economic impact. There will be low economic productivity. There are billions lost in high healthcare cost because those babies, when they become adult, they start developing diabetes, hypertension, stroke, osteoporosis. And so it has been estimated that there is up to 10% of GDP loss because of this. There is a huge social impact also. There is developmental shunting. There is 149 million children under 5 are affected worldwide. And obesity, which is another form of malnutrition, is actually growing. So as I told you, if there is a mismatch between the intrauterine nutrition and overnutrition later in life, obesity will be the first thing which will happen, and which will be the precursor to other things like hypertension, diabetes, stroke, etc. So what are the crucial stages of development we should discuss? There are 3 crucial stages. That is, one is pregnancy, second is infancy, and third is the toddlerhood. So the 1000 days we would divide into 3 parts: the pregnancy duration, second is the infant. Infant has a very different requirements, and toddler has a different requirements. So while the pregnant lady is there is pregnancy, then what should be done is good food habits, mental well-being, environment around the mother. These are of utmost importance. Prenatal nutrition of mother might affect the food preferences of child also throughout the life. And in infancy and toddlerhood, stable relations, nutrition, nurturing environment for the child build the foundation of child's development. When all these supports are absent, development can suffer, and this is a great loss of opportunity. If you lose the window of up to 2 years of life, then throughout the lifetime you can have very little change in the human being. So the neurodevelopment of the person is the most important thing in life. It is most important for a person's eventual success in the life. So if we see in first 1000 days, the brain grows faster than any other time in the life. So these are interesting facts, that brain grows very fast in first 1000 days, and brain needs right nutrients at right time. So we'll see what is the kind of the brain development which occurs in first 1000 days. Before that, we would go through the nervous system. Our nervous system is the most important system, and ultimately difference between two individuals would be their intellectual levels, and that would be because of their nervous systems. It is actually made up of billions of neurons, and these neurons control all the activities from breathing to walking to dreaming. It has 2 main parts, that is central nervous system, that is brain and spinal cord, and peripheral nervous system. These are the peripheral nerves which take the signal from the periphery to the brain and bring the signals from the brain to the periphery. A brain is a very complex and vital organ. It controls movement, heartbeat, speech, thoughts, feelings, and it is protected by skull. It is actually very soft. If you put brain on table, a fresh brain will just try to spread it out. It is so soft. But it is floating in a fluid called cerebrospinal fluid, which is its protection. It has different parts. The main part, which is the largest, is cerebrum. It has 2 halves, which are called 2 cerebral hemispheres. And left side and right side, both cerebral hemispheres, which are connected by a structure called corpus callosum. And left side actually controls the right side of the body, and right side controls the left side of the body. So if by chance there is a damage to the left side, the person will have paralysis of the right side, so reverse side. And specifically certain points have been assigned, certain centers have been assigned in different parts of the brain for our different functions. For example, on left side there is speech, logic, maths, calculations, and pulling out facts from the memory. They are on the left side. While on the right side, there are centers for music, face recognition, and spatial awareness. The cerebral cortex is the outermost layer of the cerebrum, contains gray matter. This is the matter which processes all the information. Basal ganglia are deep inside the cerebrum. they create coordination of movements, behavior, and emotion. And these are the structures. When they are damaged, they create Parkinsonism and Huntington's chorea. The disease are called Parkinsonism and Huntington's chorea. Cerebellum is a very important organ. It is also called small brain, and it is the structure which coordinates the muscle movements, and it leads to fine tuning of movements with practice. So walking, physical skill, and particularly sports where balance is required, there the cerebellum is the main functioning organ. There are other organs called other parts of the brain called amygdala, which is almond shaped deep inside the brain, and it controls the flight and fight response and memory formation. There is hippocampus, which helps to learn and remember important details. And the damage of hippocampus is first indicator of starting of Alzheimer's disease. Thalamus is at the top part of the brainstem, and it gets signals of touch, temperature, pain, and passes it to the other parts of the brain. Pons is the middle part of the brainstem. It is a bridge between cerebrum and cerebellum, and from there is original of the facial nerves and areas where the dream happen. The lower part, there is a structure called medulla oblongata, and this is a very important part of the brain stem. This leads to helping in chewing, swallowing, breathing, and transferring of signals between brain and spinal cord. And spinal cord is the structure which carries information of brain to the body and brings back the information to the brain. It controls body reflexes, and there are certain reflexes which develop at the spinal level. That means only the spinal cord is involved, the central brain is not involved. So as person, for example, a sportsman goes on practicing and practicing, a musician goes on practicing and practicing over a period of time, the technique goes into a spinal level. So the reflexes are so fast that they don't have to think it. So the process does not go into the central nervous system, but at the spinal level. There are peripheral nerves which are helpful in transferring. These are like electric wires which are in our house. There are 12 cranial nerves and 31 pair of spinal nerves. This transmits motor, that means the motion signals, and sensory information, that is touch and everything, touch and pain. So if we see an interesting graph, how the brain develops, interestingly, see here how the brain develops. So this is the point where conception has occurred, that means pregnancy, and these are pregnancy duration. So as the pregnancy occurs, you can see the level of the brain development, that is myelination and growth of brain, which is occurring in such few months. And after birth, within first few months, there is a large surge of development of brain activity, and then it settles down, and later on it is not much. So that is why this concept of 1,000 days is come, that these 1,000 days are so important in the brain development that later on you cannot compensate for that loss. So how the growth occurs, we will see some data. Basically, by 16 days of getting pregnancy, that means first conception to 16 days, the neural tube actually gets formed. That is the spinal cord and brain is covered actually. That is the neural tube formation occurs. By 7 months of pregnancy, child's brain takes form of an adult. By 4th week of pregnancy, around 10,000 cells are there in the brain. But by 24th week of pregnancy, there are 10 billion cells. So see the number of multiplication of the cells. 10 billion is a huge number. So by only halfway through the pregnancy, you have 10 billion cells. So neural connections start developing. As soon as the neurons get developed in the brain, neural connections develop. And these connections are very important. There are synapses, that is the connecting areas, through which two different neurons will connect with each other. And these are like circuits. We know about circuits, right? All the electronics work by circuit. In the same way, these are the circuits of the brain which start developing very very quickly. And these connections require nutrition as well as stimulation, both the things. So nutrition actually creates the neurons also, and nutrients also fuel the formation of synapses and formation of connection. So for both, nutrition is required. And only nutrition is also not enough. That we will see later on, that you require stimulation also. You have to stimulate them to work. Otherwise, they will not work. So today we will focus on nutrition part. There are certain foods which are brain foods, or they are more necessary for the brain development. Interesting fact is that in early life, brain consumes about 50 to 75% of energy from food. That is a huge number. So the out of the whole body, about 50 to 75% of energy is used by the brain, and particularly brain requires glucose for its functioning. These are the important nutrients which are necessary. Iron is a very important component of that. Proteins are building block of life. So as you make a house, you require building blocks, right? Those blocks, one by one you put and you create a wall. In the same way, proteins are considered to be the building block of life. Without protein, the growth will not occur. Then there are certain things which are absolute must, because the neurons will require those things, like copper, folate, folic acid. Folic acid is the, as I told you, one of the most important vitamin when cell is multiplying. Zinc is a very important component for many of the enzymatic processes, and iodine is very important for brain development. And that is why, as I told you, iodine ultimately leads to production of thyroxine, the thyroid hormone. And if there is deficiency of thyroid hormone, the IQ level of the baby will go down. So these are the things which build brain during the pregnancy. Zinc is also necessary for autonomic nervous system, cerebellum and hippocampus. And iron is required for myelination of brain and affects the brain speed also. Then other requirements are long chain PUFA, that is omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. You must have heard about this omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. They have play a central role in brain development as well as eye development. And our Indian population is little deficient in omega-3 and omega-6 nutrition. More found in non-vegetarian diet like fish oils and egg yolk. But breast milk definitely contains good amount of omega-3 and omega-6, and nuts are a good source of omega-6, which can be converted to omega-3 in the body. So if pregnancy is there, we would recommend that all pregnant women should have a good chunk of nuts in their food to supply omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. If we shift to the infant nutrition, that is the newborn child, then we have to focus on breast milk, because that is the exclusive food available to the child. And WHO has given a very good word, that is exclusive breast milk. That means not even water. It is the very best start to the life. Interesting part is that breast milk actually goes on changing in composition. So the first day composition is different. It is actually called colostrum. Now, colostrum is the initial milk which comes, which is very rich in antibodies. So nature has designed in such a way that the newborn is not having highly developed immune system. So it cannot fight the bacteria and viruses which are present in the environment. And as soon as the baby is born, it comes out of its protective covering. That is the amniotic fluid, which is the protection of the baby. And now baby is bombarded with number of bacteria, viruses in the environment, and you cannot change that. But nature has created such a design that the mother's milk contains high level of antibodies, which are transmitted from the mother to the child. And so until the baby's immune system develops, until that time, the breast milk is the best protection to the child, because it gives immunity against infections. It goes on changing in composition. So as the days passes, the baby will require more of the glucose and fat for development. And accordingly, the composition of milk will also change. And even it changes during the feeding also. That is interesting part. So if the baby starts feeding, in the initial phase, actually proteins will come. and at the end of when the breast is empty and the last part of the milk is coming from that breast, fat globules will come, and these fat globules give satiety value to the baby, so baby feels satisfied. So there is continuous change in the composition of the breast milk. It is actually all in one food. It contains everything. So for first 6 months, it is considered that the word which is used by WHO should be taken in consideration, which is called exclusive breastfeeding. So nothing else to be given except mother's milk. It has unique components which cannot be replicated. So any company which claims that their baby food is good in formula cannot be replicated, and it cannot replicate the breast milk. So its impact on the brain development is unparalleled. Recent neuroimaging studies have shown that exclusively breastfed children for 3 months had increased white matter in several parts of brain associated with executive function, planning, and social and emotion function, and the language. So they had much better developed brain rather than those who were not breastfed. So children who breastfed for more in first 28 days of life have better IQ, better reading score, mathematics, working memory, and motor functions. And during this time, another thing to be kept in mind is maternal supplementation is of utmost importance, because baby is feeding, baby is taking away iron, calcium, other requirements. And so at least iron and calcium supplementation during lactation is necessary. The requirement of pregnancy duration is, for example, calcium, 1.2 gram of calcium per day is required in pregnancy, and the same amount is required during lactation. In the same way, iron requirement is 65 milligram of elemental iron, and the same requirement continues during lactation also when the baby is exclusively breastfed. So the lactating mother has to be supplemented. Later on, if we see the toddler nutrition also has to be taken care of. Better nutrition gives better brain development. Toddlers' brain growth is also incredible. The toddlers experience incredible amount of growth and development. By age 2, their brains are 80% of the size of adult brain. So even by size also they are quite big now. So a toddler's brain has up to twice as many neuroconnections as it will have in adulthood. This gives ability to the neurons to shape themselves, and this gives high capacity to learn languages and motor skills also. So this whole thing where the brain neuroconnections are actually double than what the adult is having creates a condition called neuroplasticity. It is the efficiency of the brain to change to environment and adapt to that environment. So because of this neuroplasticity, it is much more easier to learn for a child as compared to adults. So basic requirements are to be taken care of. You start solid food at 6 months. Iron, protein, zinc, and iodine are most important. Damage done by iron deficiency, anemia in pregnancy is irreversible. So in pregnancy, the mother should not have anemia. And for that, one more thing we need to keep in mind is there is a definite role of delayed cord clamping. So the concept is developing worldwide that after the birth, don't clamp the cord immediately. Wait for minimum 1 minute till a lot of blood is transferred to the baby. It is approximately 30% of the blood which is still remaining in the placenta after the birth. So if you delay the cord clamping, you will be facilitating about 30% of more blood going to the baby, which will also have other nutrients and iron also particularly. So anemia will not develop in the newborn child. And this is going to help a lot. So the concept of delay cord clamping is coming up in a big way. And we have been doing this since many years now. Children between 1 to 3 years of age require minimum 7 milligram of iron per day. Toddlers will require 3 meals a day with 1 or 2 healthy snacks in between. And the food should include vegetables, legumes, whole grain, and protein. So it has to be a wholesome food. Certain do's and don'ts we would just go through. Always make a habit of sitting as a family at the meal time and communicate with the child. Even though you think that it's a 1-year-old child or up to 2-year-old child, they are constantly imbibing information from the environment and they are responding. So if you start communicating with them, that will be a great help in the brain development of that child. Always make healthy choices as food, because the choices which develop during the early phase of life remains for the life. So if you start giving a lot of sugar to the child in the early phase, later on also the craving for sugar will continue. So the whole choice is actually decided what you give in those 1,000 days. Make kids have the same meals as you, what you are taking. So don't prepare special meals for them. Our home cooked meal, what we are eating, we should start giving them as they become toddler. Very importantly, have a media curfew at the meal time and at the bedtime. Media curfew is very important. Today there is bombardment of information from everywhere. Televisions, telephone, means mobile, all these are continuously sending information to the child. And in television, it is very difficult to control unhealthy advertisements for unhealthy food or canned food or sodas or other drinks. And if the child starts developing craving of that in the beginning, it will be very difficult. Second thing is, while the baby is watching, the child is watching television, the satiety center does not get stimulated properly, and they continuously go on taking more and more food. They don't understand that they are now not hungry, and because of that, this is a big reason for developing obesity. Overall population is going obese. One of the major reason is continuous media stimulation at the time of food. While you are taking lunch or dinner or giving food to the child, it has to be exclusive time, no media at that time. And second important time is the bedtime, when the baby is going to the sleep. At that time also, media curfew is very useful. Avoid mobiles and avoid television at that time, because bedtime is the right time when you can start stimulating the kids for reading, and reading is going to be their companion for their life. So make a habit that they don't go to sleep unless they read or see good books. And what you don't do is fixate on amount of food. Never fix it, because all babies are different and they have different requirements of food. And don't make meal times a battle. So if they start disliking the meal time, so they will think that the parents are forcing them, or they are eating what they don't like. They will start making it a battle, and that is not advisable. Accept strong preferences. So sometimes the baby will have strong preferences. They don't like certain things. Okay, then don't try to force it. Encourage, but don't force healthy foods. Sometimes it happens that you try to give healthy foods, you try to give fruits. Now the toddler does not like it, so will not take that food. Don't force them. The best approach is give small adventure bites. That means give small portion, don't give a large portion. This will develop a taste of that food over a period of time. Generally 15 to 20 exposures of the same food and small adventure bites of that food will encourage the baby to develop the choice for that food. So you have to be patient and continue stimulating the baby for eating healthy food. Offer nutritious choices at every meal and don't keep it uniform. Go on changing. And meal should be simple and nutritious, not complicated food. It should be ready within short time and still simple and still nutritious, and there should be variety. If you try to oppose what the baby is wanting or wants to eat, the more the child will defy you. So don't oppose it. Prefer giving healthy finger foods instead of feeding him. Allow him or her to eat on his own. So don't try to feed him. Try his motor activity. So he would try to feed by himself or herself. Now that is useful. And don't force or oppose the baby. Sometimes you may think that this food is not good for the child, but give it a little bit. If the baby sees that you are opposing certain food, they would try to defy you and they would try to eat that food only. Most dangerous and addictive are sweetened beverages, soda, that means thumbs up, Coke, all kind of beverages, fruit flavored drinks, and sugar and fatty snacks. These are actually addictive. And the particularly the food with higher glycemic index, that means sugar containing food, the body metabolism is such that as the sugar goes inside, there is a strong system which produces insulin. The pancreas produces insulin and neutralize this sugar. But in the meantime, because of the insulin secretion, the person will develop more craving, so more hunger. It is very typical. If you eat two chocolates, you will like to eat another chocolate also. So that is because of the higher insulin level, which is stimulating your craving for food. So sugar is notorious in that terms, and these habits start very early when the toddler is just one or up to 2 years of old age. So from the beginning, keep the food healthy. Obesity has become a major disorder, and worldwide there is a large chunk of population affected by obesity. Obese is not necessarily healthy, and the consequences of obesity are far into the future. It is not that it's only the external look. There are so many things involved. All the organs are affected. There is increased risk of type 2 diabetes and heart disease in future. So obesity has to be curtailed, and it is a form of, actually it's a form of malnutrition only. Iron deficiency. Iron is the basis of the oxygen carrying capacity. Our all organs are getting oxygen because of the hemoglobin, and the main component is iron. The deficiency of iron will ultimately lead to poor outcomes, and early iron deficiency is associated with increased anxiety and depression later in the life. So iron is a very important requirement which should be supplemented from the beginning when pregnancy is occurring up to 2 years particularly. What is the Indian scenario? In India, the prevalence of stunting of growth peak around 18 to 24 months, after this age, the corrective interventions will not have any effect. You are too late when you are beyond 18 to 24 months. And this is the duration where highest peak incidence occurs in India. The National Health Family Survey gave astounding facts. First, most important thing is only 24% are put to the breast within 1 hour of birth. Now, we have been insisting that as soon as the childbirth occurs, we start feeding within the first hour of birth. And nowadays, as we all know, kangaroo care is also becoming very popular. But ultimately, the breastfeeding has to be started as early after delivery as possible. But only 24% of babies are put to the breast within 1 hour of birth. 46% in India are exclusively breastfed for 6 months. So only half of the babies are exclusive breastfed, remaining are put on other diet. 53% are offered timely complementary food. So once 6 months are over, they need to have complementary food, but only 53% are offered. And 21% children below 2 years are fed appropriately. So as large as 80% of children below 2 years are not adequately nourished. And this is very devastating because this effect is not immediately going to be seen. It is going to be seen as the generations come, next generation comes. And interestingly, we discussed about that the Dutch famine study. One of the more important thing which they found out later on, that was in 90s, era of 90s, it was also found out that during that Dutch famine, the pregnant ladies had deprived newborn. That was the fact. Those newborn developed adult disease. That was also found out. But startling fact was that those adults, when they become parent, that means the third generation of the newborn, the effect lasted up to that generation. So even the newborn of the affected adults, they also had increased incidence of diabetes, hypertension, stroke, etc. So this is a long effect. So we have to correct it as early as possible. We'll go through certain small important tips also. So from the beginning, eat low GI snacks. GI is the glycemic index of food. Uh, you can go through the internet, you will find the glycemic index of practically any food. So you just write down that. If you write down papaya, you will get the glycemic index of papaya. Now, this glycemic index is the index which indicates that if you take that food, within how much time the sugar will spike up. So the food with high glycemic index will have a high spike, so quickly the sugar will increase. And the food with low glycemic index, the sugar level will increase very slowly. These are considered to be good food actually. These are the food with low GI will have a balanced glucose level continuously. This will also help in pregnant ladies also. So if the pregnant ladies eat low GI snack, they will have lesser morning sickness also. Second is take your vitamin D. A surprising number of us may be vitamin D deficient. The first study was conducted in Delhi for medical students, doctors, and nurses. And it was found that around more than 80% were found to be vitamin D deficient. So it's such a large number was vitamin D deficient because now we are not getting exposed to sun adequately. So vitamin D has to be supplemented properly. Exposure to sun is very important. You can get a proper exposure to sun, but if it is not possible in a modern lifestyle, sometimes it is not possible, then supplement of vitamin D is very easy to take, but it should be taken care of. Minimize the exposure to pollution. It has been proved that with pollution, it is affecting pregnancy also, and it creates free radicals in the body. Now, these free radicals require antioxidants, which will scavenge these free radicals and remove it from your body. And these free radicals are also known to decrease your lifespan. So the body needs to fight back this pollution by taking antioxidant rich food and avoid pollution as far as possible. Balance your stress levels. So it is now confirmed, there is enough evidence that stress hormones cross placental barrier and affect the baby. But it is also found that a small amount of stress can be positive. Stress hormones send more blood to the baby's organs, brain and kidneys. So stress hormones are required, but in a moderate amount. So while in a modern lifestyle, the mother may be working and she may be having stress, she should take time and take breaks where she can be relaxed so that intermittent relaxation occurs and stress can be tackled. The key is the balancing between the stress. Another important aspect is play music that makes you happy. Music has a positive effect on your baby's brain development. Music triggers happy hormones in your baby's brain, like serotonin and endorphin. Beta endorphin are the hormones which are happy hormones. You feel happy with it. So while you play music, it helps the baby also. Get an exercise hit. Pregnancy can become an excuse to stop exercising. So I have seen a lot of pregnant women telling that, oh, I have joint pain, muscle pain, so I have stopped exercising. That is not good. Women who stick with a fitness routine have babies with healthier hearts and lower risk of heart disease, stroke, and diabetes later in life. Pregnancy is not a disease. We should remember that and continue our extra exercise schedule. And a proper balanced exercise schedule is very useful in pregnancy. Exercising for longer than 45 minutes puts strain on your body. So small pockets of exercise are very useful. And a lot of people ask what kind of exercise can be done in pregnancy. Most importantly, the exercises, whatever you do, have to be comfortable, not stress producing, and should be aerobic. So what are aerobic exercises? The exercises where your anaerobic system doesn't trigger. That means if the oxygen requirement is adequate, means exercise requires oxygen, and if you are able to supply that much oxygen, that is called aerobic exercise. If you cannot supply that much oxygen, so your exercise level is too high, then you end up with anaerobic oxygenation, where the body without oxygen also produces energy. That is called anaerobic anaerobic exercise, which produces lactic acid and is not good. So exercise has to be aerobic, and if nothing else is there, no guidance is there, walk is the best exercise. You don't need to worry about walking, but it has to be in breaks. So if you feel breathless, that means your exercise is turning from aerobic to anaerobic. Stop, sit for some time, and again resume. So in this part one of our 100 days concept of developing super babies, we explored the important phases of life. We discussed about the brain development and its potential. We discussed very importantly the Barker hypothesis and the fetal origin of adult disease. That is the Dutch famine, which gave us an opportunity to identify that the adult diseases have their origin in fetal life. And we saw the importance of nutrition in the development. We will divide this into two parts. In second part, we'll look at very important points like language learning and its importance. We will explore the areas of childhood development. And we will see the Piaget's theory of cognitive development and the role of parenting in the holistic development of the baby. So these are important things after the birth of the child, and we would go through that in part 2. This is itself is a big topic. So that is why I decided that we divide it into two parts. And in second part, we will go through what the toddler passes through and what care we can do to improve the parenting. So let us take a pledge to give adequate opportunity to our future citizens in this window of 1,000 days, which is so important, so that they can develop to their full potential and make our world a better place to live. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. It was such an informative webinar. Guys, if you have any questions, you can ask here.
Yeah, one question I am able to see is anything for leg cramps in third trimester. Yes, the leg cramps are a very typical complaints in third trimester. A lot of patients complain of musculoskeletal pains. For example, back pain or joint pains or leg cramps or muscle cramps. Now, why this happens actually? In pregnancy, a hormone called progesterone comes, and there are many factors to it. One is the progesterone. When the progesterone comes, it has a tendency to relax the joints. Now, why this nature has created? Nature has created this because the human pelvis is made up of 8 bones. It is joined at different joints, like symphysis pubis, for example. And when the baby's birth occurs, these joints get relaxed and give more space so that the baby can deliver. Now, because of that relaxation, all the joints in the body gets relaxed. Back joints also get relaxed. Because of that, there is some back pain which is inevitable in pregnancy. Typically, skeletal muscles also get cramps and pain because they require more support at the joints. But additionally, in pregnancy, you require certain nutrients. Now, if there is lack of nutrients, then leg cramps will occur. And particularly calcium deficiency, magnesium has been highly implicated, that magnesium deficiency leads to leg cramps. So supplementing these things will improve your leg cramps. Gentle massaging is very useful. Put in the leg in warm water will be very helpful. And particularly massaging is going to be very helpful. But supplement calcium, magnesium, and certain nitric oxide releasers like arginine can help leg cramps. Any other question? Hello? Hello? हाँ पति क्यों बंद कर दीजिए. Okay, right. So I think everybody's questions have been covered. Yeah. That I'll declare. So we will declare our next dates for part 2 of our 1000 days concept of producing super babies in short time, and you will get the information. Thank you all for patient listening.